Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. Xbox backwards compatibility is one of the best things about having a newer Xbox console. One nice thing though is that a lot of these games were released digitally, but there are some 360 games that nowadays you can only play using a disc. Some were announced that way and others were taken off the digital store. Today I've got 5 for you that we're going to take a look at, and I'm going to give you a rundown on all of them. All footage was captured off of an Xbox Series X, and I'd like to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into this one. First up is Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. This one was developed and published by Midway, releasing in 2008 for both the PS3 and Xbox 360. This game was Midway's penultimate game just before Wheelman dropped in 2009. This Mortal Kombat game, I remember, was a big deal with Mortal Kombat returning to go against DC, but I remember being disappointed by this one back in the day, and I haven't touched it in years till this video. Going back to it, I did have some fun with it. I think maybe in 2008, I was disappointed to see less violence from the series since this game was T-rated, but now I'm not as worried about it. That being said though, is this a top-of-the-line Mortal Kombat game? No, not at all, but it is fun. I actually had a good time with it. I think first of all, I've always really liked how Mortal Kombat handled stories, giving you stories with full cutscenes and dialogue. It's pretty much like watching a huge movie, and then you get to play a fighting game in the middle of all of it. You get 2 plot lines here, one for DC and one for Mortal Kombat, and I love to see how those stories intermingle and how the action all comes together. The plot is the main reason to stick around for all of this. The fighting in this game takes a 3D fighter style where you're facing off against opponents in 3D arenas. It's what the series had been doing for a while before they would try to reboot that. Everyone's combos and moves are entertaining, and it all flows very well. All the juggles and combos are great, and it turned out to be nice, simple, and easy. It's a fighting game that I actually got a good time out of. There's also a new falling combat mode where you throw enemies off of ledges, and you get a timing-based mini-game, which I didn't love, but it's something different. I do love stages with scene transitions, and this game has a ton of them. At the time, it was more novel to see the DC heroes get a solid fighting game, and I think it's neat to see all of the heroes get a ton of different moves and get to use their powers, though Injustice would later do it better. Though I do think the toning down of fatalities is a bit sad. That is one of the best parts of Mortal Kombat, but it's understandable why this one isn't as brutal. So I feel like this game is in an odd space in history overall. There are much better fighting games from both franchises, and I feel like I personally don't have many reasons to return to this one. Though I'm happy I did, because it's not nearly as bad as I had thought it was. Mortal Kombat vs. DC is good for a nice quick fighter fix, but it's also a fun piece of history for the franchise. Definitely cool if you have the disc for this one and you want to check it out. Next up is Condemned Criminal Origins, one I've talked about plenty of times, and I've also done a full review of it if you're interested after this video. This is one of my all-time favorite horror games, and it is a downright creepy experience. It is absolutely awesome that we can play this one through backwards compatibility. Unfortunately, this one was made available digitally for a long time, but funny enough, right after I posted a review, it was taken down. So unless you already own it digitally, this one is now a disc-only backwards compatible game. Condemned Criminal Origins was a launch title for the Xbox 360 and was certainly one of its most interesting. This is a pure horror game based mostly on reality. There's a bit of the supernatural, but for the most part, this game is gritty and dark. It has you crawling through disgusting abandoned locales, areas filled with dangerous people who will attack you on sight, all the while you're trying to conduct an investigation and slowly unravel why the city is falling apart into violence. This will have you using forensic tools to inspect crime scenes and dead bodies. It's dark and brooding, and that tinge of reality gives this one an uneasy feeling. Unlike a lot of horror titles at the time, this one goes for reality, and for me, horror based on reality is far more interesting. This is a first-person game, but it's extremely light on guns. They do pop up, but you generally will be using objects you find scattered around, maybe mannequin parts in a mall, or a paper cutter in an office, and even pipes from destroyed walls. The environment becomes your tools to defend yourself. Most of your enemies will do the same though, and you have to effectively dodge and hit them in time with their movements. I always found the combat here fun. The animations can be a bit predictable since they do repeat a lot, but if you've never played this one, the first run through will be tough. The shooting could be improved overall, but it's simply not the focus here. It's that visceral combat that draws you in, though you do get a very useful taser that allows you to stun enemies easily, and it does make the game easier. The sound of this game really helps it too, with some great ambient mood, with laughs and talking behind corners, sounds of screams, and the swinging of weapons. It's all done very well. There's just something about traveling through rooms and in the background you hear furniture moving or feet shuffling. It's truly a terrifying experience, especially if you put on headphones. Mix this with some awesome dark areas and moody lighting, and you have something creepy. Though nowadays I wouldn't say it's a standout for look, it has a clayish texture to it all, I still feel the lighting is a knockout for mood building. It's perfect if you're ever in the mood for something terrifying on your newer Xbox console. Next up is Prince of Persia. This is the 2008 reboot of the franchise that came out on the Xbox 360 and is available on backwards compatibility, but only if you have it physically. This is an interesting one because despite the game selling well and getting decent reviews, I feel many have forgotten this entry for the franchise. I feel like we remember the series that came before it, but this little reboot never got its time to shine, and I think that's disappointing because this game is quite fun. In this game, you play as the prince and you meander into the plot. You're looking for your donkey, but then you stumble into this huge story with a princess. An evil entity has been set free, and you have to give power to the Tree of Life to trap him back in his prison. This has you traveling around huge areas to unlock different ways to power the Tree of Life. So with your combat skills, you fight off enemies, and you fight alongside the princess to use her magic powers. Along the way, you do have to deal with some lame comedic dialogue from the prince, but I will say it's manageable. The look of this game is what stands out to me the most. The cel-shaded, almost watercolor-like look is beautiful. The way the characters flow and the world around them stands out is gorgeous. If there's anything I love about this game, it is the look, and to me, it helps it stay timeless. Whereas the other elements of the gameplay are good, but do feel like pieces of late 2000s games. For one, the platforming is fairly simple, and there's a lot of wall riding and jumping off of poles. Yet, it is smooth, and I think if you're in the right mood, it does scratch an itch. I also really love the extra double jump you get when you use the princess, and the princess overall is really cool since she is controlled by AI, and I feel like it was very impressive for 2008 and still holds up. The combat is the most interesting part of this puzzle though. It has a one-on-one style where you do a mix of moves featuring acrobatics or using your princess. You mix all of these together to make combos, but it's very slow. But in turn, you get some truly beautiful sequences out of the action. So it's a trade-off, and honestly one I don't mind. It was a game at the time that was willing to take a chance, and sometimes I think it's cool to admire a game that tries something a little different. Though one thing to note is that this game is fairly easy because you can't die. You will always be saved right before death if you fall into a pit or you get attacked. It's a bit odd, but I think that's part of the charm of this game. It's just doing a lot of different stuff. If you've never tried it and own it physically, definitely try it out sometime soon. The next one on today's list is Child of Eden. This is a 2011 game that came out on both the 360 and PS3, and it was focused on the motion control styled peripherals for both consoles. This game does not require Connect to Play though, and you actually can't play it that way anyway using backwards compatibility, so you are stuck with a controller. And this is one of the few games that I do consider actually better with the Connect, yet even on the controller, I still think this is a blast and very inventive. This game was made by Q Entertainment, which I'm a huge fan of out of the gate, so I do have some bias towards Child of Eden. They made the games Lumines and Rez, which are heavy music experiences. There is gameplay tied to it, but there's a lot in the way of visuals and music to make it an experience. Child of Eden is full of flashing lights, bright colors, and beautiful electronic music. It's a weird game, but I like weird. The game is set in a far-off future where all of collective human knowledge is put in a virtual realm called Eden. And then they put the consciousness of the first human born in space named Lumi, who had always dreamed of seeing Earth. Yet a virus infects Yumi, and you have to go in and save her. Doing so, along the way, will give you live-action footage that will randomly play over the gameplay. It's so weird, but it is quite an experience. In this game, you shoot at colored blocks, or blocks that look like creatures, and your goal is to get high scores by comboing your shots together and not getting hit. There are other elements like super moves and different colors that you can switch your projectiles to. You have a fast one that will take out projectiles, and then you have a slower one that's meant for the enemies. Think of this as an on-rail shooter, kind of like Panzer Dragoon, but in the trippiest way possible. The gameplay overall is quite simple, and that's why it's better on Kinect. The translation of simplicity to gameplay makes sense. So on controller, the game can feel a bit easy, but it's the type of game to sit back and chill to and take in everything. You get into a flow, and it feels great just comboing everything. Even with just the controller, the way the controller vibrates along with the beat of the music helps get you in sync with the experience. The music in this game is beautiful to go along with. It's done by Genki Rockets. The tunes in this game are great electronic pieces, both relaxing, but when you shoot elements, the sound effects come together to create beautiful tapestries against shining visuals. So if you like things like EDM or ambient chill music, this one hits those notes well. It hits the same buttons that Rez hits, and it feels like a cool upgrade to that experience. I love that they made this one backwards compatible because it's another one I feel many out there don't look back on often, and it's fairly cheap. This one is well worth going back to and revisiting. Next up is Left 4 Dead 2, which came out in 2009. This, along with the very first game in the series, is disc only, but I've never highlighted the second Left 4 Dead. This is the follow-up to the really awesome first game, and this one is just as good. This was the one that I played a ton of on Xbox Live back in the day. Nowadays, I even return to it on Steam and here on the Series X, and it's one of those great gaming experiences that still hold up to this day. Left 4 Dead 2 is one of those great gaming classics that everyone should play. This is a first-person shooter set within the zombie apocalypse. It takes place after the original, but features a new set of survivors. You got Coach, Nick, Ellis, and Rochelle, all of which go across the South in order to find some safety away from the zombie apocalypse. I love the change of setting, and this whole game taking place in the South is an absolute joy. I love the setting from Georgia all the way over to Louisiana. I love the characters too, and they're definitely amping up the comedic tone over the original, but that light tone does help the game out quite a bit. The action, though, is top-notch first-person shooter stuff. The controls are all perfect, and shooting zombies feels great, though it's the special infected that make this game shine. The old ones like boomers and hunters return, but there's a large mix of new ones here. You get spitters that spit out goo, the charger that runs at you, and jockeys that ride on top of you. All of them are disgusting looking and fun to play around with. It's the versus mode that I have the most memories with, where the humans try to get as far as they can in a level, while the other team plays the infected and holds them back. It was a really fun and inventive way to design a game, and that always kept me hooked. Though you can play all the single player too, and these levels are great to play alone. All of them have great detail and layouts that are truly something special. I think the flow of these levels mixed with the randomness of the director, you get something that feels familiar but different every time you play it. And that's not it for the game modes though. There's a slew of different ways to play this game, along with a ton of different difficulties like realism, which is extremely hard, or special game modes where you only have chainsaws. It's one of those experiences that is like slipping under a warm blanket, even if it's a gory, nasty zombie game. It's comfortable to sit back and just kill a bunch of zombies in the Deep South. Play this one with friends if you can, and it's truly awesome to have this one easily accessible on modern Xbox consoles, but only if you own the disc.
Reloading!
Well, that wraps it up for today's video. If you enjoyed this and want to see more, be sure to leave a like. Also comment below with what you'd like to see next. Subscribe to keep up with more videos like this, and check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more gaming videos. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. You really help out the channel, and I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.